Hi and welcome to all the viewers out there joining us around the globe for this pre-recorded show, which will be for the meeting at Hollywoodbets Kenilworth, 11:50, a 10-race program. And let me first welcome Graham Hawkins into the studio. Graham, how are you doing? And then looking at the card, quite a tough card.
It was a tough card, and fortunately, or unfortunately, because I like a horse later on that would really love it, very wet, but we'll get to that later on. Tough card, but no rain. So no rain forecast. So it should be a good day weather-wise for racing.
Well, there we go. As long as the weather's good and the horses run for you, let's get straight into the action. 11:50 is the off time for race number 1, and take note of a number of unraced horses, so watch on the betting market. But number 1, Scarlet McCaw, is 15-10, and number 2 in the green zone at 2-1. So numbers 1 and 2 seem to set the standard. And Graham, they've got the exposed form, but with the unraced entries, you never know, there could be something special there.
Well, at this stage, there's no market movement for any of the first-timers, which suggests this could be a match race between numbers 1, Scarlet McCaw, and 2 in the green zone. I have a slight preference for in the green zone. I think the form lines are somewhat stronger. Also, in the green zone gets blinkers for the first time. That's an equipment change, so that could help her. Richard Ferree rides for Justin Snaith. But obviously, Scarlet McCaw comes into the race with some decent form, so it does look a match between the two. 4 Champagne Problems, a newcomer by What a Winter, is starting to drift in the market. No real support for any of the others. So we're going to have to rely on the exposed form. They're drawn in gates 1 and 2. And I want to make the point, because later on, my suggested bet for the day is Jackpot 2. And I've banked number 1 on board, which is drawn in gate 1, obviously. So the first 4 races are down the straight. So before finalizing any later exotics, obviously maybe too late for the bipod, maybe too late for the place accumulator, just check to see whether there's any track bias. I'm not expecting a track bias, and with the rains not having come in any meaningful way, we did have some rain last week, but with no rain forecast, the track should be pretty even, because some horses fancied are drawn on the inside, and some horses fancied are drawn on the outside. So use the first 4 races to establish whether there's any distinctive track bias, and if there is against the inside, then obviously going to have to change our thinking for Jackpot 2. But the opener should be fought out by numbers 1, Scarlet McCaw, and 2 in the green zone.
Well, talking about the draws in race number 2, number 16, From a Distance. Obviously, the first race, draw 1, we go to draw 16, From a Distance, which is currently your 5-2 favorite. 11, Back at the George, is 5-1. That'll be a popular selection for some around Mhlanga area. But let's kick off with the Daughter of Karori, From a Distance. Showed the expected improvement from the first run to the second run.
First run was a strong race. When running behind Dark Winter, there have been a number of winners, direct and indirect winners from that form line. We come back to the point about the draw, because I think From a Distance is going to take a ton of beating. I think she looks worth a bet. She's definitely the one to beat. I'm expecting improvement from number 6, Timeline. On debut, ran only 2.5 lengths behind Sorcerer Supreme. Made a debut behind Whistle the Tune, who won the Devonair Stakes over the weekend. That form is not too bad. Comes back to 1,200 metres from 1,400 metres last time out. So watch for good improvement from number 6, Timeline, who's at 10-1. And I think that's pretty good each way odds. The others to mention, number 2, Double Dash, will improve. Number 13, American Ultra, will improve. Number 11, Back at the George, should be held by number 16, From a Distance. But Back at the George is improving nicely and may have scope for further improvement. But I do make number 16, From a Distance, worth a bet at the current odds at 28-10.
And then moving along to race number 3, being a 10-race program. This will be the opening leg of the place accumulator. This will be run also down the straight, as Graham mentioned, 1,200 metres. Number 7, Mon Petite Cherie, is your 28-10 favourite. Number 1, October Fest, the first timer, is at 3-1, and then we have 4-1 and Better the Rest. Interesting, number 1, October Fest, the Master of My Fate. This is Elder de Meier's ride for the Candice Bass Robinson stable. And as you mentioned, the draws, if this one has ability, could be a live wire.
Yeah, she's the half-sister to October Morn, of course, won the SF Philly Sprint just the other day. So she's got a lovely pedigree. She's well respected in the market. She's short in the market. Mon Petit Cherie will improve on that debut run. That was also a strong race. It was against winners. So Mon Petit Cherie on form appears the one to beat, but October Fest could be anything. And obviously, you've got to watch the market right up until race time. Maritzburg Memory, that form behind Artiste comes under scrutiny in the prior race from a distance and back at the George, but finished behind Mon Petit Cherie on debut when they raced against Symphony in White. Not a hell of a lot of difference between them, 3 lengths. So Maritzburg Memory's got 3 lengths to find with Mon Petit Cherie. But one of the key runners in the race, without question, is number 15, Duchess of Paloma. Now, she's drawn on the other side in gate 15. She comes out of that very strong little ballerina form line, one of the few not to have won out of that form line, but she was sidelined after that, probably needed a run last time out behind Furious Queen. The betting suggests she needed the run. She drifted in the market, but watch for a much better effort from number 15, Duchess of Paloma. But I do make number 7, Mon Petit Cherie, the one to beat. This is the first leg of the place accumulator. Now, I know I've suggested Jackpot 2 as my bet for the day, but I think this sets up as a place accumulator card. So if you want to have a bit of fun with this race day, take a wide place accumulator, take a percentage. Hopefully you get some results. Hopefully you double up where necessary. But this does shape up as a place accumulator card, but you're going to have to go pretty wide. So Mon Petit Cherie to win it, ahead of number 15, Duchess of Paloma. But of course the key horse in the race is October Morn's half sister, Oktoberfest. She could be anything.
Keep a close eye on the betting activity, and when it comes race time, see if the money starts to flow in for number 1. As we step on the gas, opening leg of the pick 6, race number 4, also down the lane over 1,200 meters. Number 8, Cliff Swallow, seems to set the trend. Last time showed a lot of speed over the 1,400, dropping back to the 1,200. The ruling 16-10 favourite. And Graham, over the weekend, we saw Richard Fourie beat the Twatwa cut record, so it's absolutely mind-blowing and history in the making. And now we see Richard Fourie now looking to set a record that might not be able to be caught in our lifetimes.
Well, we didn't think that Anthony Del Pesce's record will ever be caught. Certainly not in my lifetime, perhaps in your lifetime. But whatever number Richard Fourie eventually ends up on come the 31st of July, I'm going to go on record, and I'm probably not going to be around for anybody to prove me wrong, that it'll never get beaten. This is, of course, the start of the tricky races. This is an open maiden over 1,200 meters. So Cliff Swallow has been very frustrating to follow, been very costly to follow. It's got 61 to shoulder, giving away weight to less talented horses, but weight can be a great leveler. I like number 1, Becky Sharp, again coming out of gate 1, so hopefully that's not an obstacle. I like the way the daughter of Rafif is progressing. Ashton Aries and Vaughan Marshall, they've been in pretty decent form. She's improved with every single run, and I think that in receipt of 6 kilograms from Cliff Swallow, I know she's the filly, she gets a bit of weight allowance in terms of the weight structure. She also gets a sex allowance, but I do think that Becky Sharp is going to be quite competitive. Watch out for a much better run from number 2, Joueur de Flute. I chatted to Eric Sands after that last run. He felt he should have been a bit closer. That form has not been franked. Joueur de Flute probably needs gelding, but we're hoping to win a race with him before that time. Of course, Cliff Swallow's stable companion, Tams Knight, is not without a chance. King Viserys, penultimate run, this class, with this kind of weight, was second. Bryden Bay gets the blinkers, and Lead to Glory is drawn on the stand side with 51.5 on the back, and Josh Solomon's in the irons. The last 3 runs suggest that a win in this kind of class is imminent, so you can't safely ignore number 14, Lead to Glory. Clearly, number 8, Cliff Swallow, has the best form, but has been costly to follow, and I think this may be a little bit more trappy than what it at first appears to be.
Right, let's move on to race number 5, which will be the halfway stage, this time around the turn, so 1,400 meters. And just out of interest, Drakenstein Stud, they have 4 runners in the race, drawn 1, 2, 3, and 16. The current favourite is number 3, Ticking Bomb, with Richard Fourie aboard. And being an open handicap, it just makes it that more tricky.
Yeah, look, she's raced in Class 5 handicaps in her last 2 starts. At least she comes back into a maiden open handicap. She's got a nice draw. I think she's ideally distance suited. And, of course, it doesn't do any harm to have Richard Fourie in the saddle. And Glenn Cotson's stable has been going along nicely. Something has to be favourite. Ticking Bomb is favourite. They're betting 7-2 the field. There are many with chances. Number 6, Ella Ricks. 12th time at the races to try and shed a maiden ticket. But she's been in the money in 9 of her 11 starts, so she rates an obvious chance. I'm going to lean towards number 8, United We Stand. I think good value at around 8-1. Good last 2 runs in this sort of class. Carries 55. Tricky draw perhaps of 8, but I think United We Stand is going to run well. Then those with light weights but drawn towards the outside, 11 Jet Green, 14 Pink Moon. I think we've all been waiting for her to step up in trip. But I have to say she's been extremely disappointing. With that 5-star pedigree that she boasts, I would have thought she would have done a lot better, albeit down the straight, than she has done. But she could relish going up to the 1,400 metres and perhaps even further. Jet to the Sun, second on debut behind Double Grand Slam, and had some nice horses behind her on that occasion. Has a third run after rest. She was sidelined for, well, close on a year, from June 2023 to March 2024. So she has a third run after arrest. Craig Zaki rides for Justin Snaith, but the draw is tricky, and we're on the winter course, which makes it even more complicated. So I think this is a very, very tough race. You could argue that Ticking Bomb sets the standard, dropping back from open handicap company into maiden handicap company, but I think there are many with chances.
Right, many with chances, and have your bet, and hopefully the horse you back comes ahead of the rest of them. As we move on to the second half of the card, race number 6 is over 1,400 metres, and I think the betting says it all, tells the tale. 4-1 the field, number 10 Slurry Kane, number 6 Kelp Forest, who Graham mentioned earlier on, 9-2, and then 11 Night Bomber also at 9-2. It's then 7-1 and better the rest. Graham, looking at race number 6, you can make a case for a number of runners here.
Yeah, it's a very, very trappy Class 4 handicap. But let's run through the ones that I think have got a chance that are worth mentioning. I think number 4, Touchdown, will run well. He's the half-brother to Linebacker. His penultimate start in March, he bled, was sidelined through the compulsory 60-day suspension, having bled on the 5th of March. His comeback run was good. And I think they quite like this horse, number 4, Touchdown. So I think he's going to progress beyond Class 4 company. Whether this is his day or not, that's open to question. But I do think that Touchdown will go well. But then you've got to like all of numbers 5 in the bag, who was behind Touchdown last time. Kelp Forest found his form again, beating like the Clappers. But everybody seems to beat like the Clappers. So on the previous run, he's held by Kebona Lesedi. So wherever Kelp Forest runs, Kebona Lesedi shouldn't be too far away, or perhaps even in front of him. Slurry Kane, promising to win again, but he's holding his form really well. So I think it's probably fair to say that number 10, Slurry Kane with Richard Faree, despite the widest draw, does set the standard. But then I quite like number 11, Night Bomber. He's going to need a bit of luck in running. He's run second in his last 2 starts over 1,200 metres. He might appreciate stepping up to 1,400 metres. But then again, if you like Night Bomber, you've got to like Grand Bay. Grand Bay is 16-1 and Night Bomber is at 5-1. The discrepancy in the market is far too wide, because Grand Bay, well, he either wins or runs in place, doesn't it? His overall record is 12 starts with 3 wins and 0 seconds, 0 thirds, 0 fourths. And if his pattern is going to be repeated, 4 runs back he won, then he won 2 runs back. So, you know, in between every win there's a indifferent run. So what to expect from Grand Bay is anybody's guess. So it's not an easy race. Night Bomber, I would suggest, is my marginal first choice, but Touchdown I've got a lot of respect for. But if you can get away with narrowing your number selection in this race, then you've done well. And get away with it, then you've done well.
Moving on to race number 7, which is the Wolf Power Syndicate Cape B Stakes over 1,600 metres, and this will be the commencement of Jackpot 2, and this is Graham Hawkins' suggested bet for the day. And I see in the opening leg you've gone with your 4 runners, but let's kick off with your value selection, which is Solar Power. So Solar Power currently at around 16. You can maybe get some 20-1 shopping around, and you'll tell us a bit more about Solar Power.
Look, Sheldon is the best horse in the race. You know, he won the Pocket Power Stakes, beating the Futurist. That form has stood up really well. Early in his career, over 1,400 metres, he beat Winchester Mansion. Forget about his 3 runs on the Highveld. So if you delete those 3 runs from his record book, the 3 runs on the Highveld, 7th of October 2023, 28th of October 2023, 9th of December 2023, then his overall form looks good. And the last run behind Inamarari, I really liked the way he was staying on at the end. But this may be 1 run too soon for him, and I really wanted it wetter. He's deadly. He's deadly when the going is really soft. So I think at 20-1, he's worth an each-way bet. Might be 1 run too soon. Whatever happens in this race, when the rains come, keep Solar Power on your radar. He's clearly had his problems. He's a 5-year-old rising 6. He's only had 18 starts. He's won 4 of those and been placed 4 times second. So 8 out of 18 he's been in the top 2. So for me, he's the best horse in the race. And you take your chances at a big price. And who knows, with a bit of luck and running, he might get away with it, even though the track might not be as soft as he would like it. But it's an interesting race, this, because Natcham is a decent horse in his own right. His distance form is 3 starts with 2 wins and a second. He gets a 4-claimer on his back. He's been sidelined since February. He went over 2,200 metres last time. I think that might have been stretching him. I think he's far more effective 1,600 metres. Tyrion Lannister is going to bounce back. Bardolino, well, you never know what you're going to get. 12 Katsu has been priced up the marginal favourite in a wide-open betting contest, but I think Katsu is better over further. His 1,600 metre form is definitely questionable. 13 Cheeky Laddies are scratching. And 14 Quartermain. How's this? Eric Sands must be pulling his hair out. He's drawn worst of all in his last 3 starts now. 12 out of 12, 2 runs back, 9 out of 9 last time out this time. What now effectively becomes 13 out of 13 with the scratching of Cheeky Laddie. So Bardolino on best form can win it. Katsu may be better than I think over 1,600 metres. But for me, Solar Power and Natcham are the 2 interesting runners. So I've gone, what have I gone? I've gone 2, 4, 7 and 14 in the first leg of Jackpot 2. So I'm taking a liberty because you obviously can't just put everything in. But I'm hoping that this is the leg where I get a bit of a result with either Solar Power, obviously the principal result, and Natcham. But I think from gate 2, Tyrion Lannister is going to run well. And Quartermain, if he can overcome that draw and have a bit of luck with Richard Ferrier aboard, then he's going to go well as well.
On to race number 8, where we have joint favourites number 2, Green Mandarin, and number 3, Two a Penny. Number 1, Gimme More Time, is currently priced up at 5 to 1. And just looking at these 2 joint favourites, number 2, Green Mandarin's a 4-year-old, Two a Penny's a 3-year-old. Green Mandarin's in search of the hat-trick, and then Two a Penny achieved the hat-trick and then ran 3rd after that, Graham.
Two a Penny's a lovely filly. She's gorgeous to look at, and she's done really well for the Adam Marcus stable. There's nothing wrong with her form, and with Richard Ferrier aboard, he's unbeaten on her. He's ridden her twice. He's won on her twice. So clearly, Two a Penny is right up there with the best of them in this race. Green Mandarin has turned his form around really nicely, but you have to. The win over for Lurpik was impressive. The field he beat last time when slamming Gold Index by 2.5 lengths, that's questionable form, but you can only win, and he's won his last 2, so he's come well. Give Me More Time. What you see is what you get. I think he's course and distance suited. He should go well from gate 1. Then the only other one I'm going to throw in, and I really like, also at a big price, I'm waiting for him to bounce back, and that is number 9, Holding Thumbs. I can't believe that he's as bad as his recent form suggests. Because Glenn Cotson has always held Holding Thumbs in high regard, and he is the stable companion to Green Mandarin. So at some point, this 3-year-old son of Vercingetorix is going to start coming right. I think that he had won to trip. He's been brought along carefully. He only has his 2nd run as a gelding. Last time was his 1st run as a gelding. It was an indifferent performance, one has to say. But if Holding Thumbs was to suddenly turn it all around and come flashing through to win here in the Gary Player colours, and what a weekend for Gary Player, feature race double at Hollywoodbets Greyville, then Holding Thumbs could be too good for this lot. But 1, 2, 3 and 9 for me in the 2nd leg of Jackpot 2. Two a Penny sets a standard for me.
Then we move on to penultimate race for the day, which is race number 9, and this will be the 3rd leg of Jackpot 2. And just looking at the betting, the favourite number 1 on board, currently at 22 to 10. Looking at this 4-year-old chestnut filly, the daughter of Vercingetorix, had some fair form and then 1 or 2 indifferent runs. And then, Graham, you've elected to go all in with number 1 on board. They've put the blinkers on the last 3 efforts, a 4th, a 2nd and a 3rd. So hopefully a victory's on the horizon.
Yeah, now the blinkers come off. That's a declaration. So I'm quite pleased about that, actually, because I think if you go back into form line, it's quite interesting. On the 20th of May, 2023, so we're going back a year, she raced with blinkers, was a close-up 5th behind Apple Catcher, and the very next start she raced without the blinkers and won. Listen, she has her limitations. She's won 1 race from 16 starts. This is a Class 5 fillies and mares handicap over 1,200 metres. Some people probably would like to check me into some form of clinic or another for daring to suggest we could have a banker bet in a race of this nature. But it's either that or the field. And I haven't got the greatest record with Andre Nel as a tipster, I have to say. When I go for them, they don't appear. When I ignore them, they come and win. But I'm going to take my chances once again. Again, the draw one is key. So obviously, we record this show on the Monday morning, more than 24 hours ahead of the race meeting. If the first 4 races on the card that are down the straight suggest that the inside gate is not where you want to be, then clearly you've got to rethink this whole race, because she jumps out of gate 1. Her form is good enough. She's consistent. She's, I'm going to take my chances with her. Once you start looking beyond on board, you come to horses like Seeking Peace, who certainly at least knows what it is to win. She gets the services of Richard Fourie. She likes it soft, possibly not as soft as she'd like it yet. Same comment as Solar Power. 1 or 2 others, Why Not Jackie, Royal Rhythm, Trey Chic. These all can win on their day, but you got to nail your colours to the mast somewhere. So I'm going to take my chances in Jackpot 2 and Banker on board. But as I said earlier, I'm also going to take a place accumulator, a wide one with a small percentage, just to keep me interested through the day, because I think we could see some results. And whatever the outcomes of some of these races, you're going to drop tickets along the way.
Well, that's the way to look at it. On board, you're going to banker and obviously watch the first couple of races, because the draws could certainly change the dynamics of on-board's chances. So watch the first few down the straight, and then you be the judge. And are you on board, or are you going to go wider? That'll take us on to race number 10, where Graham has gone the field here. So if Graham has gone through and on board comes through to win, there's no chance you can go out in the last.
Yeah, well, look, I've got big gaps, big holes in my selections in the first 2 legs, and an even bigger hole in the 3rd leg with on board a banker. So if I survive those 3, then I'm not, I want them all here. Again, I just want to stress about the draws. Given the absence of rain, and there's no rain forecast, as I said earlier, I'm not really expecting there to be a draw bias. That sometimes comes about when the going gets really heavy, and sometimes then the outside is favoured. So, but yes, it will pay to watch the first 4 races and see how we go there. The last race, well, I need your help. Clearly, there are some with better form than others. Number 2, Rattlesnake, was a recent 2-year-old winner. Probably the best horse in the race, probably the one that has the greatest scope for improvement, but this will be a test for the 2-year-old son of Buffalo Bill Cody. What happened to Wordsworth last time? I have no idea. Was pulled out of the race by Richard Fourie. He retains the ride, finished way, way behind Swift Action, but on his previous form against Shifting Path, if you like Shifting Path, you've got to like Wordsworth. William West can get into the fray. There was a lot of money for Major Apollo last time, from a big price into 6.5 to 1. He found Swift Action. We fancied Swift Action on that day. It was one of the better bets on that card, Swift Action, in my view. But that's all history now. But Major Apollo was back to beat him and ran well, ran second. So another good run can be expected by Major Apollo. He's a very lightly raced 3-year-old. He's rising 4. He only has his 9th career start. So there might still be something to come from Major Apollo. Any one of the others can win. This is a kind of race that could be an absolute blowout. They're evenly matched in terms of the conditions of the race. It's a Cape Sea Stakes over 1,000 metres. On best form, Wordsworth probably would win it ahead of Shifting Path and possibly the improving 2-year-old 2 Rattlesnake. But if I survive those first 3 legs, then I'm wanting a big result here.
Looking at number 3, William West, just a horse that's caught my eye behind Swift Action last time out, was very consistent after winning, and then just seemed to lose the plot a little bit. Last time, a hint of returning.
Listen, William West, on best form, is the one to beat here. Go back, I know we keep going back quite a way, but the form lines often, and you'll know this from studying form closely, might be 6 months ago, but sometimes they come back. So if you go back to the 24th of October, admittedly, it was at Durbanville. William West carried 61.5 and Wordsworth 52.5. And there was not much between them. Obviously, these weights far more in favour of number 3, William West. And as you say, the last run showed a little bit of something, but I need to see more from him. But certainly, you're right. William West could easily win this race.
Just having a look at the betting, opened up 16 to 1, has shortened 12 to 1. So not just yet. I'm going to take the 12 to 1. So, and a few swingers and exactors, but I'm on the same page with you. A horse like Major Apollo and 1 or 2 others, Shifting Path. There's quite a few horses here that can go in. And you're on the right track there, going the field, so we'll be safe in the last leg. And talking about the field, we're going to bring up Graham Hawkins' suggested bets for the day. And Graham, you can take all your followers through it, please.
Okay, so gone with jackpot 2, but interesting buy pots, interesting place accumulators to be found, to be structured. Go wide, take a lesser percentage. It's that kind of a card, going 2, 4, 7 and 14 in the first leg of jackpot 2, 1, 2, 3 and 9 in the second leg. Banker number 1 on board in the third, and if we've survived those first 3 legs, I'm certainly not taking any chances in the 10th and final. The 11 runners carded, we go the whole field. And as discussed in detail earlier, I would like more rain, but my value bet for the day at around 20 to 1 is number 4, Solar Power. There's no doubt in my mind he's the best horse in the race. We may be 1 run too early, and maybe it needs more rain, but keep Solar Power. Whatever happens in this race meeting, keep Solar Power on your radar.
Well, thanks very much to Graham. Thanks very much for being in studio, joining us, giving us your thoughts on the day. And if Solar Power doesn't arrive on the day, next time out, we're going to wait for the rains and we'll still get a decent price.
You've always taught me over the years, you keep waiting and you keep waiting and you keep waiting. You keep them on your radar. I think Solar Power, especially when the rain comes, is going to have a good winter.
So there we have it, Solar Power. Once the winter rains come properly, this is a horse that you need to pencil in, but don't be caught down. So certainly throw this runner into each and every one of your bets. So thanks very much to Graham Hawkins on a tricky 10-race program. Hopefully your horses come through and do it for you at the races.